What is going on, guys? Money Mander back at you with another trade recap. Today, I'm going to be going over these SPX lotto calls that I took with Diamond Trades that did this.
10 bags! 10 bags! 10 bags!
Into the bell. Let's get right into it.
All right, guys, what's going on? So I'm going to be recapping a trade here that I took with Diamond. We took the 39.60 calls here on SPX on the 1st of September, a couple weeks ago. These went over 1,000% for me, like 1,500% for Diamond. He got a better entry than I did. So we're going to recap here. I got the 5-minute pulled up. I'm going to be going over where exactly we entered, what I was looking at on an intraday time frame, and then Diamond's going to recap the 30-minute and daily chart confluence we had on this to kind of add conviction to the trade beyond just the 5-minute entry that we took here. So off the gap down at the open, we had this 8 EMA gap strat play really well. We got this bounce off of the immediate lows and then rejected off the 8, saw another 30 points of downside. Off this like 11 a.m. bottom here, though, we actually got a little rally and then set a higher low. So immediately what me and Diamond were then looking at as we got back above the EMA resistance here right after 1 o'clock was to see this bullish crossover of the 8 and the 21 to the upside, which we ultimately got. So as the hour went on and we approached 2 o'clock here, we were really looking to see this 21 EMA then hold as support. We had the bullish cross to the upside. So now let's see if those EMAs can flip to support and show us definitively the trend change to the upside, which we did see, right? And we had the gap down overnight. So we really wanted to see if we could break over the open here, if we could vacuum then and fill this gap into the close. So this was really what we were playing for, was ultimately just the gap fill. And then, should we reject off that? That's fine. We knew that it was 2 o'clock with 2 hours left. The premiums were really low. So we knew even if we just got this gap fill and ultimately rejected, we still would have had a great trade at that point. So as we had the bullish crossover to the upside here, the blue EMA is my 8 and the purple is the 21. We had this bullish crossover. 2 o'clock rolls around right here, and we saw this acting as support for 4 straight 5-minute candles. Ultimately 5 when we retested it here at 210, right? So we waited for a couple candle closes. Ultimately, we couldn't initially get above the 8 EMA. As we saw this start to crack, though, this is where Diamond got the better entry than me. I actually took this on the break of the 8 EMA to the upside. I didn't grab it at the 21 because I wanted to see it confirm as support first instead of blindly adding. So as we started to get this hammer candle off of the 21 here right at 2 o'clock, I jumped in the 39.60 calls. And so why did I choose that strike? Ultimately, we had this gap fill to 39.55 was the level we were playing to. And so as we were just looking at the premiums, I just personally thought, should we get through the gap fill, then the 39.60s have a great chance of getting in the money. At the time, they were trading at like 50 cents a contract. So I thought that was the best risk to reward in terms of strike price. And then even if we didn't get that, should we get a move to fill the gap soon enough? I knew these could at least go to like 4 or 5, because at the time, that's what the strikes that were 5 points out of the money were trading at. So in my mind, I knew if we even got this move to 39.55 soon enough, as long as it didn't happen at like 350, if we got this move decently soon, I knew that these had at least like 500% potential. And then after that point, we see where they go, right? So I grabbed on the break of this candle. I think Diamond took them on the retest of the 21 here at 210. He got in at, what did you get in at, 40 cents a con?
60.
I was in at 75. I have the premium chart pulled up here as well to the right. So you can see right at 2 o'clock here, this is where I jumped in at like 75. He got in at like 60. And you can see right off of that, we got one last retest of the 21 EMA here at 210. After that closed above the 8, we just rode the 8 EMA all the way through into the gap fill. So really right here was all we were playing for. This was at 310. We were just playing for this gap fill. And at this point, they had gone 500% already. I trimmed half at 100. I think we both took trims here at the gap fill and then kept some runners to see what happened. At that point, it was already a risk-free trade and we locked in some profits. So we were really just rolling to see really what can happen with this. Got the gap fill and rejected off of that. But then as volume really started to squeeze into the close here, right at like 330, we found intraday support here right off the 21 again, which is really what you're looking for. After this flips to the upside, you really want to see these EMAs holding as support. So they actually came all the way back down below entry. The runners were red here at the 21 EMA, which would have been an even better trade. We were already in and out, locked in profits. So we held the runners risk-free, see what could happen, and just got this trampoline into the bell off of the 21. So these actually closed at 731 a contract. You could see here they hit 10. Someone got filled here on the ask at 10. So basically $1,000 a contract in at $75. Absolutely insane. So I think I don't know what that is, like 1200% at peak. They closed just at about 1000% or 900% for me. Diamond's closed at 1000% for him. So that's really intraday what we're looking at. Then I'll pass it over to Diamond here to show you the confluence we had on the 30-minute and the daily chart as well.
Okay, so like Mander talked about, that 5-minute setup had, at least 4 layers of conviction. And so that alone for me was, enough to get in. But like Mander mentioned, I actually added a little bit after him. And, while I was waiting, I sort of went and looked at some different time frames and said, okay, things look bullish on the 5-minute, but what's the daily chart saying? And what's the 30-minute chart saying? And so I decided to dive into those before even getting into the trade. And here's what I saw, right? So here's the 30-minute chart on SPY for that day. SPY SPX are going to move the same, more or less have the same, indicators and whatnot. And so I'm looking at SPY here. And this blue line here is going to be our 10 SMA on the system. Analyst Dwayne Trade has been all over the system, which is basically a strategy that he uses on the 30-minute, comprised of the 50 simple moving average, which you'll see right here in purple, and the 10 simple moving average, which you'll see right here in blue. And these are just going to act as support and resistance when you're trading beneath them, and support when you're trading over them. So in our case here, we were trading below the 10 SMA, which means that 10 SMA is going to act as support, right? Every time that we get up there, you can expect to see a rejection, right? Because we're at resistance in the stock. Right before our entry on the 30-minute chart, we actually got to pop over that 10 SMA. And that's another piece of added conviction to tell me, okay, not only is the 5-minute setting up, not only do we have this A21 crossover and a really good look on the 5-minute, but also the 30-minute is starting to break resistance, trading over the 10 SMA. In the following 2 30-minute candles, you can see that we come back and retest this 10 SMA, confirming it as support, right? Not only do we break over, but we come down and test it just to make sure, and bulls are able to hold that 10 SMA retest. And so to me, that's a second layer of conviction to say, okay, not only does the 5-minute look really good, but the 30-minute is also showing strength and a break of resistance, leading me to believe that we could potentially get a gap fill here into the close, right? Which is exactly what we were playing for. Not only did the 30-minute chart look good, but the daily chart also looked good. So let's go ahead and take a look at that, right? So here's the daily chart on the day of the trade. As you can see, we had a pretty significant sell-off. This is Jackson Hole event here in late August, and we had a pretty steep sell-off into the 1st of September when we took this trade. One of the things that added conviction, in my opinion, for this trade was the measured move count that we had on SPY, right? And so for our measured move count, we got to bounce here off of 410, right? Once we bounce off of 410, we make this move to 430. And so really simple, what is the measured move? We have a 20-point move after holding that 410 support. If 410 support gives up, we should get a $20 move to the downside, okay? Here's a $20 move to the upside. Once we break this 410 support, I'm looking for that $20 move to the downside with a target of 390, okay? So once we break 410, you can see that we quickly sold off all the way down to 390. Very little strength in the market, to be honest, was quite oversold in my opinion at this point, okay? And so not only do we have the 5-minute showing strength with the A21 crossover with a gap to fill above, not only do we have the 30-minute chart showing that the 10 SMA is no longer resistance and is now going to act as support right after holding on that retest, but we also have our daily target getting a bounce here at 390, right? If we go back into the lower time frame charts, the 30-minute or the 5-minute, you'll see this 390 was ultimately the low in the stock, right? And so when I have a target in a stock and I see it getting a strong move in the opposite direction, that tells me that a potential reversal could be underway. And that's exactly what we got in SPY and SPX into the close there. SPY ultimately came up and filled that gap after bouncing off of our 390 target, after holding this 10 SMA support, and after showing multiple levels of conviction on the 5-minute chart for a call entry. So that's going to wrap it up for our trade recap today. 1000% trade opportunities don't come along very often, right? We don't seek them out, but when they do present themselves, we have to take advantage. And that's exactly what we did here with this 10-bagger trade in SPX.
All right, guys, if you enjoyed, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the Kane Capital YouTube here. And if you want more educational content like this, be sure to join the Kane Capital Discord with the link in the description.